Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass.
And what's it gonna do?
It doesn't matter how you're doing. Woo! Wheeling, dealing, limousine right, jet flying.
Can you dig it, sucker?
Would you please shut the hell up?
You don't know what hard times are, Daddy.
The cream will rise to the top, oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Look at the human rubble.
What up? What up? Welcome to episode 54 of Keep the Kayfabe. I'm Mike, sitting here with my boys, ready to talk some wrestling. And we're going to go over the honor and the pleasure of reviewing the great show that was All Out that just took place this last Sunday, as me, as well as all the Keep the Kayfabe boys, were there to witness it firsthand. And we're going to go over our picks, and we will review the card. We'll go over our thoughts, our highlights of the night. And if you didn't check out our last show, episode 53, be sure to subscribe to Keep the Kayfabe right now on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, so you can be in the know of what we're doing and when our new episodes are dropping. So before we get down to all that business, let's get acclimated with the fellas real quick. Over in Glendale, somebody who keeps it regal, Steve Grobschmidt. How are you, Grubby?
Yes. I'd also
Perfect.
I'd like to
Absolutely.
I'd also like a quick shout out to new listener Glenn.
What's up, Glenn? Friend of the channel.
Oh God. How are you, Glenn? Hope you're enjoying yourself on the road to your next wrestling show. Anyway, let's talk to somebody who keeps it freshly squeezed, Mr. Matt Michelson. How are you, Matt?
Meet us in the ring. We're the Mexa Kings.
Oh, yeah.
Penta says.
Yeah. There was a big meetup in the ring this past Sunday. We're going to get to that fabulous match. Can't wait to talk about that. But before we do that, let's talk to my guy. Oh, my God! It's Charlie Michael.
You know it's all about the boom! Adam Cole, baby! You know it's all about the boom! That's what I got out of the lyrics so far.
Nice.
Of his new opening theme. This song's all about the boom! I'm pretty sure that's going to be worked in there pretty soon once the crowd figures that out.
Oh,
once
absolutely.
they figure out the song.
Charlie,
that's cool that they kept the boom.
Charlie, between that song and Bryan Danielson's new music, which would you say is your favorite?
Shit, it's hard, man. I like that Adam Cole song. We'll see if they put some lyrics to Daniels. Daniels is good because it sounds like that fucking old Harlem Heat, but the lyrics, Adam Cole's are pretty, and it's a pretty funky beat. It's tough. It's right now. It's all about the boom. It's all about the boom, Adam Cole, baby.
I sure hope they put the boom in his song because, yeah, you're right, Charlie.
It is. It is in the boom.
Tight.
That's the name of the fucking song. It's all about the boom. that's what the lyrics are.
Well, once they get it worked in.
It's all about the boom.
Once they get it worked in.
Oh yeah, once they hear it, that boom's coming in. Adam Cole, baby. Listen to it. It's a fucking good song, dude. I've listened to it maybe 10 times. It's a quick little ditty.
Yeah, it'll get you going in the morning. All right, so huge show down in Chicago this last weekend on Sunday, Labor Day weekend. If you're ever going to be anywhere Labor Day weekend and you're a wrestling fan, try to travel to Schaumburg, Illinois next year because, my God, I went to All In, I went to the last All Out, and this past All Out surpassed all of those into one. And I got to think they're only be getting better and better, and they're going to save the best for All Out in years to come. It's a great time to be a wrestling fan. I celebrate all of you, and I can't wait to talk about the great night that we had. All the Keep the Kayfabe boys were down there. We had a great time. We sat in the same row. It was the first wrestling show that we all saw together, sitting all next to each other all at once, too. And what a first one to have, eh, boys?
It was the best of all time for me.
Yeah, same. And I've heard a lot of critics talking about how this is, in some sectors the best wrestling pay-per-view of all time. And I'm sure there's a lot of qualifiers for that as far as recency, what happened, debuts, stuff like that. But as someone who attended it in person, especially with you guys, by far the best live wrestling show I've ever seen. And that's, we've seen some good shows, but wow, this was incredible.
Oh, yeah. The crowd was hyped.
Yeah. Yep. That's probably the best.
Took us a long time to get in there, too.
Oh my gosh.
It was pretty crazy. We had a pretty banging tailgate out in the parking lot. We got there early and settled in. I'm so happy we did because we got something in our stomachs. We got the juices flowing, and on the way in there, it took us maybe about a mile wait in line to get in. But once the doors open, it went pretty fast.
Yeah.
Literally walked
took a
around
whole
the building
lap around the whole building
to get in line.
Could have
to get
started
in.
right where we
started
got to
at
the door, but
Yeah.
it's all part of the experience.
Hey, we worked off some energy.
It was pretty cool. We worked off some energy. We got our steps in for the day, and we also got to see all the great shirts that everybody was wearing, too. So that was pretty fun. Steve, I think your favorite was a mom that was saying or was wearing a T-shirt. Someone get these hands, or what was it, Braun Strowman?
Yeah, that was the Braun Strowman quote. I just love it because that's not somebody that's like your buddy that wore the Roman Reigns thing. It's somebody that was just there with their son and they thought like they could relate, and it was the best.
I'll just wear a wrestling shirt. It doesn't matter. They're all the same.
I found it very endearing.
Yeah.
Yeah, she looked like she could be a member on the Jerry Springer show too, so it was just so fitting. I love that. We had a lot of good times.
yeah, for sure.
So let's get to the matches. We didn't really have to predict the opener, the buy-in. That was kind of thrown in last minute because we had a match drop, Andrade versus Pac, so we're not going to go over that, but we will see that match coming up this Friday on Rampage, which will be great. Not the match of the night, but it will be the match of the night, probably on Rampage.
Which is what I said, match of the night.
I didn't say where. I just said to be match of the night.
Technicality, just like Jericho's win.
Just like that old Keith Lee bet that Mike and Charlie still have going to this day.
Oh, Keith, that bet's solid. That bet's solid in my favor, dude. He'll be in AEW before he wins that. Before that, he'll be in AEW before the Bears win the championship. Trust me.
Let's go to the first match of the evening. It was between the champion, TNT champion Miro versus Eddie Kingston. And what a way to start off the night. It was a pretty smart move on their part. I didn't understand how over Eddie Kingston was with some of the fans. I mean, they blew up for him when his music hit.
I think the Friday Night line had really helped get him even more over than he was.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
He's nuts.
Yeah, you're totally right, Charlie. Yeah, redeem these nuts. It was on his T-shirt. Somebody even made a sign. So, yeah. That definitely bumped him up a couple notches for sure. And this was a pretty interesting match because everybody took Miro except for Charlie. But I honestly followed Charlie and used my mulligan, which we're going to rebrand next prediction show. You'll have to wait and see what we're going to call it next. But I took Eddie Kingston. So Steve and Matt both took Miro. Me and Charlie took Eddie. And Miro came out victorious. Eddie was not going to win gold tonight, and I should have stuck with my guns, but that's okay. What did you guys think of this match?
I think we were all winners on that one. That was a great match. It was like a really hot opener.
That was a great way to open it, yep.
Yeah, because the crowd was super into it. Eddie's just like, he's gold. And he's as gold as his Redeem These Nuts shirt is gold. And Miro is awesome. I mean, so this was just a hard-hitting, fun match. I mean, yeah, that's got everybody fired up.
Yeah, 100%. It's so funny when you see this show live versus on TV because I've watched parts of it back ever since seeing it in person. And in person, it's just every element of it. You're so soaked into it. On the night, even before the bell rang, either guy could have won. And even when the match started, it could have gone either way. I think taking a step back from that before we did the predictions and just thinking about longer term, who does it make more sense to have go over, right? I think Eddie Kingston's a great opponent for Miro, and we saw that at this pay-per-view. He absolutely was. Not quite the right guy in the right place at the right time, though. So, fantastic match. I've actually watched that match back again. Really hard hitting. Steve and I were actually talking during the show just about how intense some of the shots were, and for being a pretty typical, kind of middle of the road match as far as work rate goes, it really had us just hanging on by every moment of every move they did. So really good match.
Right. And to keep the momentum going, they threw on Jon Moxley versus Satoshi Kojima next. That was a pretty fun match, packed with some surprises. But before we get to that, it was unanimous by us picking Jon Moxley. But I was to win, which he did. But I was very surprised to see Kojima, how dominating Kojima was against Jon Moxley in this match. He really threw Jon around.
Yeah, he did. This was interesting. I've heard of Kojima before. Never seen any of his matches. Not really familiar with his work. But even within the first few minutes, I was into this match. And there were moments, if you were there in person, there were moments during the match where I feel like the crowd started to turn on Jon Moxley a little bit, and Kojima sort of worked the babyface role more so. But it totally worked. And by the end of the match, of course, Moxley's back in the crowd's good graces. Kojima got some really good offense in. And it always blows my mind when you get a guy from New Japan who, regardless of the language barrier, he can communicate with the crowd. He can work the crowd. People get behind him regardless. So really good match. It's interesting getting a guy who has that much history behind him too to wrestle Moxley, just because you're going to get something great out of it. And we definitely did. So all around great match. I think its placement on the card really made sense too, especially in the early going.
I think, while the four of us all predicted the same, that Moxley was going to win, there's a gentleman next to Matt that was clearly not. It was hilarious. He was so angry over the outcome. And it was like, how do you, I get if you're into, Japanese wrestling or whatever, but how can you be that tone deaf that Moxley was not going to
exactly.
He was not going to lose that match.
This guy,
This
guy actually looked like he was at a Lord of the Rings Comic-Con or two, or like had a fairy, like wishes he married a fairy princess Tinkerbell or something. He was pretty nerdy. I don't know if he had it totally together, but God love him. I'm sure he had a good time. But yeah, great moment.
So that was that was a fun match. It was like, I don't really have a lot of background either, other than I just appreciated it for what it was. It was just a hard hitting, awesome beatdown back and forth. And it was, to Matt's point, at the height of the match, the crowd was almost split 50-50, which I guess speaks to a lot of things. Chicago's a smart audience that kind of knows their wrestling.
Oh,
yeah.
And then at the very end of this match, a huge surprise. This was on nobody's radar, and who would have possibly thought that Sendao Suzuki? Is that how it says Sendao?
No, Minoru Suzuki. Just call it. Is this Minoru Suzuki?
My bad, yo. Right, one of the hardest hitting guys in New Japan, from what I understand. He's got to be over 50, right?
Yeah, he's fine. He's like my age. Yeah, like 54, 55. He's up there.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the hardest hitting guys in Japan. Definitely.
Oh, he's insane, dude. He's insane.
His matches are scary to watch because everything about him is so believable. And,
And he looks mean. He looks tough.
Yeah, for sure. And the exchange we saw between him and Moxley was intense. We were fortunate enough to see them exchange elbows as, the post-match angle. And that's his thing. And Jon Moxley and Suzuki have wrestled, I believe, in New Japan once before. And it was such a hard-hitting match. I would love to see it again. And we are going to get to see it again, actually, this Wednesday on Dynamite from Cincinnati, Jon Moxley's hometown. So pretty awesome that he gets to wrestle, I think, the guy that he has said is one of his favorite New Japan guys to wrestle in his hometown. So really looking forward to seeing this.
Yeah. If you Google that, you want to really see how brutal this dude is. If you want to Google Suzuki versus Asuka over in Japan before she became WWE, he roughed her up. Dude, it's pretty
Wow.
intense, dude. It's pretty intense, dude. It's like, damn, dude. It's like, because he just has that reputation, and like, it don't matter. He'll if you want him to lay it in, he'll lay his shit in, dude. It's crazy, dude.
I will definitely have to go see
Yeah,
that. That
look
sounds
it up, dude.
insane.
If anything, it'll be a nice reminder of who Asuka is.
Right.
Very true. The next match was quite the thriller. It was Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, current champion, and she came out with Jamie Hayter and Rebel, and she did defeat Chris Statlander for the women's AEW championship. And Chris was out there with Orange Cassidy. This was an awesome match. This was one that I was definitely looking forward to just because of how much of a specimen Statlander is. But also, I am just a huge mark for Britt Baker. I'm pretty much obsessed at this point. Now that she's worked in the Pittsburgh Sunrise, which should have been the tell of the guest that was
I
there.
knew that, dude.
It was an outside chance. The fact that she used it.
Yeah.
Well, we should have known when we saw it. It was like, well, why would she ever use the Panama Sunrise in AEW if that move is still in NXT or WWE? We should have been like, wow, Cole must be here. But
Well, I knew it was
you know,
I knew it
it's
was
okay.
coming.
The crowd popped hard. Yeah, eventually. But I
Yeah.
wasn't sure about the night of.
The night, yeah. But she uses the curb. She uses the curb stomp too, though. That doesn't mean Seth Rollins is coming.
No, I wish he was, man.
That's a good point.
She uses the curb stomp a lot.
Chris Statlander did get over in this match with the loss. She put on a hell of a show, took some huge bumps off the apron, off the top turnbuckle, and I think she's one of the most athletic women in AEW, so it was the perfect first person to debut the Pittsburgh Sunrise on. So, what did you guys think of this match?
It was good. It served its purpose. Statlander's best match.
Yeah, I would totally agree. Statlander's best match by far. It was interesting too seeing, like, I mean, I don't know that I've seen her wrestle one-on-one ever since she got injured. She's really been mostly in tag matches or coming out with the best friends. So I think this was a great reminder of how good of a wrestler she can be if given the opportunity, especially with how much she's gotten in shape as of late.
Yeah, I might be biased, but I think she's a better wrestler at this point than Britt Baker, and I think it was a good. I mean, Britt Baker had easily her best match. I think this weekend. I think she's had a few of them, but she's been inconsistent.
Thunder Rosa, dude.
Yeah,
that was
short-term memory there. Yeah,
that might be her second best, but yeah, her and Thunder Rosa were really good.
I do think she's still at that point where she's a work in progress, where she needs she needs a strong opponent, and I think it helped her out.
She's totally improved. Just remember where she was a year ago. Even wrestling wise, she's so much better.
Yeah. So I mean, that was a fun match. I think you knew Britt was going to win. We all knew Britt was going to win, but it was good. And I also like, again, kudos to AEW. I've been having a hard time figuring out what they're doing with Britt, where they won't make her. She's still cowardly heel, even though everybody loves her. But that match was so good that, again, it's not like the fans shit on Chris Statlander. They liked both of them. You know, there was a good chance going both ways. Just appreciating it for what it was.
Matt, did you have anything on this one?
Not a whole lot between what these guys said. I mean, I would agree this was Britt Baker's best match. Beyond Thunder Rosa, of course, that was a classic. But definitely Chris Statlander's match, kind of like I said earlier on. I think the match overall was great. Again, I think one thing anybody can say about All Out that holds true is I think the order that they placed all these matches on the card could not have been any better. It was perfect.
Yeah, good. Yeah, good match placement. Yep,
for sure.
It really was.
And I think this match is no different.
Yeah, and speaking of unbelievable match placement, the next match that followed Britt and Chris was the Lucha Brothers with Alex Abrahantes versus the Young Bucks. Pretty much the match everybody came to see if you're not a huge CM Punk Darby Allin mark. I know we were all in agreement that Lucha Brothers were going to win, except for one lone wolf, and that's Charlie Michael. He went out on his own, thought the Young Bucks were going to keep their titles a little longer.
Yeah,
we were all in agreement, Steve, Matt, and I. that the Lucha Brothers, this was their time. You could just tell from the intro of them coming out, they were just lit in the ring, just like caged animals in there. And honestly, when the Young Bucks were coming out to their theme music, everybody was chanting Cierro Romero louder than the Bucks music. I mean, you couldn't hear the Young Bucks intro music, and that was so cool. This match was 22 minutes long. It had me on the edge of my seat for 22 minutes long. I mean, the Bucks and the Lucha Brothers, they're almost too smooth, and how good they are. They work together. It's just unbelievable. It can't even be described nor mimicked. We'll never see a matchup feud like this probably ever again to their style, who do it better than these two guys. And I was really happy to see these two teams, I should say. And I was happy to see the Lucha Bros finally get their the gold wrapped around their waist now. They've been there since day one. And we love you, Young Bucks, but man, I'm so happy for the Lucha Bros and all they worked for to get there.
I agree. This, I think my favorite parts of the match, first and foremost, was actually before the match started, when they had live music for their intro, which I haven't seen live at a show before. I mean, NXT TakeOver used to be really well known for doing this, but I think it's one of the first times AEW has done this. So that was really cool. Pentagon and Phoenix come out in these Aztec traditional headdresses that were just super cool. From that moment, I remember looking over at Steve just thinking, yeah, they're winning this match, because why put all this effort to just have them lose to the Young Bucks. Yeah. So that was a really cool moment. I think after the match, actually when Pentagon got the pin, and I was telling these guys in the moment during that, actually after the show was over, I actually had like tears in my eyes a little bit, just because the build during the match was so suspenseful. And Charlie and I were talking about how they did such a good job building this match to the point where I was thinking, I swear to God, if the Young Bucks win this, I'm going to lose my shit, because
the people would have rioted, dude.
People would have rioted.
Yeah,
it was
they'd have lost it, dude.
You could cut the tension with a knife.
They would have had a serious problem. Yep.
Yeah, so it was a big moment of relief at the end when they did win. The third and final thing that I found really cool about the match wasn't even during the match or the match itself. During the post-show media scrum, Tony Khan actually had the Lucha Bros come out and answer a bunch of questions, and Phoenix, maybe it was Pentagon, actually, I don't remember, but one of them said that they would love to have a rematch with the Young Bucks, maybe a year or two down the line, where they do a hair versus mask match, which I think would be
Can you imagine?
The most amazing rematch.
Yeah, that would be crazy, bro.
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, I could see them. All four of those guys would be down for that. That would be amazing. No, it was oh my God. I mean, what can you say about that match? It was just one of the best matches I've ever seen in my life. And I've said this before on the show. I'm a smart fan that has traditionally liked the heels in my life, but the Bucks are so damn good at what they do that I fucking hate them. And I was getting anxious, and like I would have been furious if they won, even knowing full well they're doing that. It's a role and all that. I just was emotionally invested that I'm like, the fucking Lucha Brothers better win this damn thing, and they did. And I just, oh man, it was like euphoric. It was so great to see them win.
As one of the best friends sitting alongside Steve, I can attest to that. There was I think up until this match, Steve and I were just kind of, chatting about the matches as they would go, but just kind of pointing out, objective things about them. Nothing really, not getting emotionally invested in anything, I'll say that. But there was definitely a moment in this match, and I don't remember the exact moment, but I think it was when the Bucks had done something else, killed another moment of hope for the Lucha Bros during the match, where Steve's frustration got the best of him, and he just started yelling at the wrestlers in the ring. And that's when I knew this match was special, because if it can break one of us, it can break.
Yeah, I love it. That's wrestling at its best right there.
They sucked you in.
They sucked me in. Yep.
Charlie, do you have any remarks on this one?
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, like you said, being there, Lucha Bros had to go over because it might have killed the mood of the show. But I would have waited a little bit longer, just because now the Bucks are over. That show, the Bucks were over his heels. People were saying "fuck the Young Bucks." They were hating on the Young Bucks. They finally got over his heels where people weren't cheering him, and I think a little bit longer would have made them solid heels. But now we'll see where they go. But it's like they have no title, so them being heels doesn't matter anymore because they have nothing that no one wants or chasing them for. So being a heel is big deal. You're not in the title picture, so what does it matter? But we'll see what they do. It'll be entertaining because they got the we'll talk about it later. The big guy coming out with them, AC. But it's like, where do you go with this next? Because you don't have your title. You can't brag about all your rich shit. How you have all the Jordans and you have all these clothes and all these, the stuff, and you have the titles. So now what? But we'll see. I'm sure they have it planned out.
You know what? You know what they do have still that the Lucha Bros do not have, and that's Don Callis.
Yeah,
the invisible hand.
Oh no, they have something better in Alex Abrahantes.
Now what they should do is they should have a rematch soon and just steal it from them and get it back.
I'm still wondering,
and that'll really piss off the fans.
Oh my god!
Which would make them even bigger heels.
Yeah, that's not a terrible idea.
Charlie, I feel like you've been hanging out with Vince McMahon way too much.
No, that's a.
No, I actually think that's a pretty. That's a pretty. I don't want to see that happen, but that'd be good shit.
Yeah.
That's not Vince's booking, but that's a way to keep them in the mix because now it's. I mean, they're still number one contenders, but now it's going to be, it can't be Jungle Boy. It can't be Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus because they're faces. They get it. I mean, I guess AEW would do that, but it's like who's the number one contenders now? FTR. What about Proud and Powerful? They beat them.
But you know what? They're like different kind of faces. I think they'd work against the Lucha Bros. So yeah, one of those two teams could figure it out.
Yeah. You get those teams will be good. So
they got.
We'll see where it goes. They got a lot of options. But but another thing you guys were saying too, with Adam Cole coming in now, maybe they'll do the 6-man tag thing.
Oh, that'd be great. There's a lot of mileage there.
Yeah.
One thing too is as we discussed, Andrade and Pac got pushed. I wonder if they're abandoning or they're still committed to this weird story where Andrade's trying to recruit the Lucha Brothers because his whole thing was Pac was holding him back, but now they won it all. So I wonder what they're going to do there. If they're just going to stick with Pac or maybe Pac will turn on them or something. But that's still there, and AEW doesn't typically dump stories easily. So I wonder if I wonder what's coming. Maybe Andrade will find a team to challenge him.
Yep, there you go. Yep. He'll team up with somebody. You never know.
And maybe it'll be Andrade and Mojo Rawley against them or something.
Sweet. and that began the downfall of WCW 2.0.
Yeah.
Thus began. Go ahead, Mike.
All right. Well, there's no doubt about it that the Young Bucks, this was the perfect ending to their awesome heel run. Congrats to them for what they accomplished to get the entire Now Center to say, fuck the Young Bucks. That was quite the accomplishment. It was quite the Lucha one. So, then, like we've been saying all night throughout the show, was perfect match placement. They put the 21-woman Casino Battle Royale in right after this match. Kind of nice because it gave people a chance to go take a piss, get another beer, take a breather for a second. You see a lot of women come out, put on a good show, but still the big reveal was at the end. And this match was 22 minutes, so people had pretty much 20 minutes to get their shit together before they brought out Ruby Soho. That was pretty awesome. She comes screaming out. People are going ballistic. Charlie gained 1 back on all of us by picking Ruby Soho to win this match, which is a great call by him. Awesome job, Charlie.
Easy booking.
Right. Yeah. You probably could have seen it coming from a mile away, and I'm glad one of us called it because it makes us look like we know what we're talking about. So thank you, Charlie. But this was a fun match. I mean, Ruby debuted. She had a lot of emotion. She hugged the ref right afterwards. They probably had a lot of history together too.
They do.
It was just a great feel-good moment, and it just bulks up the depth on the women's roster for AEW now. Did anybody else want to make any remarks before we move ahead?
Yeah, so I mean, I don't like battle royals anymore in my life. They tend to just be a cluster.
Yeah, yeah,
But
totally,
but
totally.
this one was one of the better ones, and I think because they kind of, and I think that stipulation actually helped it because it wasn't like 20, 30 people starting in the ring. It was like, they had time to do a couple things. Like you got to see a little of the interplay between Ty Conti and Penelope Ford and the bunny and Anna Jay. That story developed a little bit. You had Nyla Rose betray um, Jade
Jade
Cargill
Cargill.
like weeks into their partnership, so that was pretty great, and stuff like that. And I think,
Yeah.
and then Ruby just stole the show. So, and I mean, it was so great that how the crowd was into it and like welcomed her, and it was really emotional for her. It was just, yeah, their division is. I mean, everybody used to always tout the WWE's women's division, and I don't know, AEW's maybe doesn't have the sheer talent, but they're going to pass them pretty quick.
I disagree with Steve in the sense that I've always kind of been a fan of battle royals. I'm especially the Royal Rumble. But I do think the Casino Battle Royale, the format of it, really hasn't done well in the past because it can get clunky. There's a lot of room for production errors and things like that. I would go as far as to say I think this Casino Battle Royale, of all the ones AEW has done so far, is by far the best one. Now, part of that might be biased because we were actually there to see it in person.
Sure.
But I do feel, kind of like Steve said, there was a lot of subplots during the match that made it a little more interesting. The Joker was genuinely a great surprise versus in the past where they've had some soft debuts of, people who are kind of known, amongst the hardcore wrestling fans. Whereas in this case, you have a former WWE women's wrestler, debut with a huge pop, by the way, too, which was really exciting to see. So I think it was a really good match in that sense. Seeing it live, like I said, I'm sure helped. I do like that this time around when they would introduce each suit, the wrestlers would each get their own individual entrance with their video and music. It was cut short a little bit, but I think it's, moving in the right direction. And if they're going to stick with this format, I think they are clearly trying to make it better, at least a little bit each time.
Yep.
I thought I liked the shortened, music and visuals, kept it moving. I thought it was a good show, good length of time. Like I said, right in the middle of the card. And yeah, really looking forward to see who Ruby Riot goes on a mission. I don't think she'll take it off of Britt right away, but it will probably percolate a pretty good story throughout the promotion.
I also just wanted to say real quick. I wanted to say real quick too. I thought it was great how like some of these secondary stars like Diamante, Big Swole, and Sky Blue dispensed some real hard hitting action there.
Oh yeah, very high flying, and have fists of stone.
Yeah.
All right, moving right along, we have MJF versus Chris Jericho, and if Chris Jericho lost this match, Chris Jericho would no longer wrestle in AEW, which I thought would be total bullshit, and that's why I thought MJF would take this match. Steve thought he would take this match too. Matt and Charlie stuck with Chris Jericho. I thought MJF was going to win just because it was going to be more long-term booking, give Chris a break, and they can always break that agreement. I mean, it's just a stupid match stipulation. It's wrestling.
No, AEW sticks to their stuff, dude. Because look at the Cody thing, dude. They stick to it, and I don't think they want to start doing that stuff to their fans. If they set a step, they're sticking to it, dude.
Well, I think they would stick. I'm not saying they would come back right away. I would probably take like a year off, and I'm sure the fans would pretty much want to see a match by him, and they wouldn't be too upset about it. So
I don't know.
that's where my head was at. But
yeah.
what was stupid was I should have picked Jericho because if MJF is wearing a 3-0 shirt over Chris Jericho, there's no way MJF is going to beat him 4 times. So it was a pretty good match. There was a little hijinks at the end. They had to go to a photo review. It was some old school stuff where the ref did not see Chris Jericho's foot on the ropes during the 3 count. They had to go back and had a big hustle and bustle, get the crowd worked up in a frenzy. What happens? Chris Jericho is back on to wrestle MJF. The match can keep going. He hits him with He didn't even hit him with the Judas effect. What did he get him in the walls of Jericho and make him tap, if I remember correctly? Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah. How do we think Chris Jericho looked in this match? Because MJF looked really good. I would say MJF carried this match for sure, if anything.
Yeah, I would agree. I think in terms of work rate and stuff, yeah, absolutely. MJF's carrying it for sure. When we talk about the predictions for this match, I think all of us won in a sense, right? Because MJF won, but then Chris Jericho won. So in turn, we all win. But
I agree.
I will say I'm not really a fan of the dirty finishes. I've just watched way too much WWE in my life where now I'm just, it's ruined it for me. But I do think this particular match, the way they framed it, especially with the stipulation they had in place, it made perfect sense to do it this way. You brought the crowd down so hard when you see Chris Jericho lose the match. We're all accustomed to what the referee says and their decision's final, as we've been trained to think. But kind of like you said, Mike, the photo finish, the review at the end with the two referees talking it over and then deciding to restart the match, such a great feeling. And I know we've seen that in the past. I think there was a match back in WWE in like the late 90s where Mick Foley had the same thing happen in one of his matches and came back to win. So it has been done well before. It's just been a really long time since they've pulled this off. And what a great match to do it in. I think before the false finish in the beginning, people were kind of into the match itself, but not as much as they could have been given the stipulation. But I'll tell you what, the moment Aubrey Edwards and Justin Roberts gets on the mic and says that the match will be restarted, this crowd was red hot for the rest of the match.
Oh, yeah.
You knew the finish was coming. You could sense, MJF already, got screwed out of it. Well, of course Chris Jericho's going to win after that. Why would they do a double screw? Because it just, it's not good booking in that sense. So, I think this match was done really well. It was a smart move to get the fans really invested in it if they weren't already.
Yeah, well, with the weird stipulation like that at the end, where they could just reverse the call, I thought that's what they could probably do a year from now. Just find some weird stipulation in the fine print. They could just make something up and bring Jericho back. It's kind of like a microcosm of what I thought would happen long term.
I think it's stupid because you get to that stupid WWE taking shit back and just forgetting shit. I don't like that. I'm glad they don't do that because it just makes for a wonky anything can happen. Nothing means anything kind of deal. I want to if you say you're done, you're done.
I think I'm interested to see, one thing you guys talked about. I don't want to go into the match because you said it all. I thought it was a good match. It played to Jericho. Jericho had a good opponent. He looked better than he's looked recently. But in terms of the the false finish and all that, what I don't hope is that they don't keep this feud going on. I think we all need to be done. We all need to be done with it for a while. I think this has been going on going on for 2 years now. Yeah, and I just hope. I don't know where it goes. I don't know what Jericho does. Either way, I think he's going to take time off for a tour. Mm-hmm. But I think hopefully, I don't know where Jericho goes from here. It's obviously not the world title picture yet.
Oh, I think he's out of the title picture forever.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I meant MJF is not going to be in the title picture as long as Omega's there. So I think we got to find something next, and maybe it's one of these new names coming. I don't know, but they got to figure out something for him.
Yeah, but I listened to Busted Open Bully where he was saying maybe make him disappear for a few weeks and then come back, because he already lost, because he can't come back to Dynamite talking shit because then people will be like, you tapped out. So disappear right. For a while, let it cool off, and then come back with whichever way they're going to take him.
That's a good call.
Yeah, agreed. Especially with the Pinnacle and the Inner Circle kind of falling by the wayside. I think they need to let this feud just settle out for a little bit and then figure out a new direction.
The last three matches, we were all in agreement, so we don't have to review who picked what. We all picked the winners, and after the Jericho victory was the match that everybody came to see. I've never seen so many CM Punk shirts in an arena before in my entire life. I mean, you could basically look in every single section, and there's probably about 80 people wearing a white CM Punk shirt, the official one. Those are just the official ones that they're wearing, not the ones that might have been black or a different color to decipher. But, I mean, it was packed with CM Punk shirts. And Darby got a pretty good ovation when he came out. I mean, we all love Darby, and we all respect Darby. And I'm glad he got the love. There was actually a split in the crowd where people were cheering for Darby, cheering for Punk, but I mean, by far, everybody knew CM Punk was going to win this match, and it started off a little slow, wouldn't you say, Matt?
Yeah, I think so. And part of that I feel like was, it's a CM Punk's first match in 7 years. So I'm not shocked that it started out as slow as it did. Quite frankly, going into it, I didn't know what to expect. And I don't think a lot of people did. I think we've talked about this before on the podcast, but I just got back into pro wrestling around, I want to say 2015. So right after I think CM Punk had left WWE. So I'm not too familiar with his work. I understand he was in Ring of Honor, had a pretty good run in WWE for a while. But I don't know his signature moves. I couldn't tell you, what style he works, things like that. So for me, this was a really new experience. We've all watched Darby Allin as part of AEW and, documented that on this podcast. But seeing the two in the ring together was really interesting. But as the match started out slow, it did pick up, over time gradually. And I think by the end of the match, it had us all won over. I don't think there's any doubt that it was a great match. Darby sold like crazy, did some insane moves. Punk did a great job countering the coffin drop just by sitting up and almost laughed, kind of sarcastically or ironically in, Darby's face. Like, why hasn't anybody just done this to avoid the coffin drop? So I thought it was really clever on both their parts. It was a great match.
Good match. I mean, what more is there to say? I thought they worked it perfectly. They started slow, built up, and then Punk escaped a couple, or Darby escaped a couple, or one time from getting to go to sleep, and then it was a good match. Good comeback match. We'll see where he goes next. That's going to be interesting. They have tons of ways they can go story-wise with Punk. And I don't know where Darby goes either, but there's a lot of, good matchups and a lot of good stories to tell because he got a lot of good characters now. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think one possible way they go with it is, I said this, I think when we were traveling, but, Punk had showed it, he and Sting and Darby shook hands and all that. They might rehash that on the next show where, they call each other out and they're like, and then 2.0 and Garcia will mess with them. And then we'll, at some point, either on TV or whatever, probably not the next pay-per-view, that's too far away. But I have a feeling we're going to see Sting, Darby, and Punk against 2.0 and Garcia in the weeks to come. And that'll get a little mileage. And then I don't know where it goes from there, but I could see that. But no, I mean, just to close off this one, I think Punk, it started off slow, but it really was a well-told, good match. Not all of them have to be these crazy fast barn burner, like spot fests. I think kind of like the style that Christians brought to AEW is just good storytelling, slower matches, but well done, crisp. There was some shout outs in there to, I guess, a 1-2-3 Kid Bret Hart match. Like they actually emulated some of the move sequences from it. If you look on Twitter, some people are kind of, I think Sean Waltman pointed it out too, but like there's an opening sequence with a lockup and like a flip and stuff where it was almost verbatim from that match. So they were doing little things in their match to call out like some legendary matches. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, there definitely was like great sequences in there, great storytelling. When Darby got bumped out of the ring with the go to sleep, the sequence before that was great, and you could see just Punk with a sparkle in his eye again.
Yes,
and like a genuine sigh of relief that he's in a company where he can be himself and have fun. And it helps when people are loving you and you're getting paid shitloads of money, but he genuinely, I feel, is happy to be there and is going to do a lot of positive things for the promotion for a long time now.
Amen.
And then what we said would probably happen would be Paul White and QT Marshall's match would go on after this one. We thought it would go maybe 5 minutes. It was 3 minutes and 10 seconds. Did the job. let everybody take a little breather, go have a little cigarette, go take a piss. Paul White dominated QT Marshall, and Aaron Solo and Nick Comoroto and whoever else was out there. You got to make the show look good. You got to make Paul White look good out there. So, does anybody want to say anything about this one, or should we move ahead to the main event?
I'll just sum it up as match of the night.
Yeah, that Phoenix dive off the cage was fantastic, but man, that choke slam just never ate.
Yeah.
And they telling the crowd to shush so he can give the chops, man.
Oh,
Yeah, and that never gets old.
Especially when he does it 4 times in a match. It does not get old.
Never gets old.
Actually, I did just remember one thing about this match. The dude that was so on board with
Yes.
the dude that John Moxley wrestled was genuinely
You
huge
said that.
hater of QT Marshall.
Yes.
Wanted QT Marshall to make sure that he hated him. But there was also a guy in front of us who was equally as geeky, who was a huge QT Marshall fan, was like yelling for QT, screaming for QT when QT's music hit was all a buzz. Kind of like when me and Charlie were at NXT TakeOver, how the Undisputed Era guys were silent the whole night, and then when the Undisputed Era music hit, just like lit up and just like came alive. This was this guy. And then when QT lost in 3 minutes, he like literally put his hands up and was like, "That's it." Like
He was looking for that 4-star match.
what did you expect? Jeez.
That's hilarious. I love it. Yeah, disillusioned fans.
So that did put a little extra into that match for me, observing that guy. So, all right. So huge main event left. We did an awesome job, I think, as a group. Hanging in there because you really don't want to miss a minute of action of All Out. You got to time out your bathroom breaks. You got to time out your merch runs. And Matt and Steve did an excellent job. I think they remained in their seat pretty much the whole show. Did you not, boys?
Yep, he doesn't move.
We
I
did.
did. Yeah.
I was smart enough to, right before the buy-in match started, just run to the bathroom, and I don't even think I had to go, but I was like, I'm going to make this
Making
count,
sure.
and if it happens, it happens. I'm not missing a match, and we did not.
You buckled in. Smart. And you had a great time. We all had a great time. And
Amen, man.
you know what was a great time? Kenny Omega with Don Callis coming out to face Christian Cage for the AEW World Championship. We knew it was going to be a great match. It was 20 minutes long, 21 minutes and 20 seconds, basically. And Kenny Omega was the victor. And Don Callis put on a hell of a show to go along with it. But where Kenny Omega was victorious is he took Christian Cage up to the top rope and laid the one-winged angel on him for the 1, 2, 3. Was it the second rope, Charlie?
Yeah, second
You know, it's
rope.
funny you
I
say
thought
that
it went all the
though.
way
No,
up.
I read a couple articles that said top rope, and I'm like, I don't think it was. So yeah, you weren't the only
I
one
thought it
that
was the
thought
top
that.
rope.
Yeah, even
Yeah.
Meltzer and Brian Alvarez were arguing about this on Wrestling Observer Radio, and I really couldn't tell you what it was. I think it was the
Second rope. Yeah.
I feel like it was the second rope. I
Second
think
rope.
Kenny was sitting on the top rope to get the whole thing situated, and then he
Okay.
stood up,
Yeah.
so it was a little
Yeah,
bit
that could
old,
be.
But
Yeah.
regardless,
Either way.
yeah, regardless, it was a super over the top version of the one winged angel. Quite frankly, I could not tell you what happened in this match besides a blur of V triggers. There was a spear through a table. There was a spot where Kenny stomped the table on Christian's head. Honestly, after all the other matches we'd seen up to this point, there was so much good wrestling. It got to the point for me, at least, where it was starting to all just blur together at this point. Granted, it was still a fantastic match. I don't want to take anything away from it, but I think when you put out as many good matches as AEW does, they all do kind of start to blur together, especially when you're there in person and you're just physically starting to get, to the end of all the energy you can give for the night. But regardless, this was a really good match. I enjoyed it. And like Mike said, Kenny Omega, one-winged angel off the second/third rope. Christian retains. Not Christian. Excuse me. Christian loses. Kenny Omega retains the AEW World title.
Whew. Yeah, I
And,
agree. I mean, it was a good match, solid, but I mean, what came after is probably what we really want to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. When all was said and done with the match, the Elite got together and got on the mic as they usually do after a big win on a big show, and they had something to reveal. Kenny had this great speech that hinted at the All Elite show. The lights went dark. Adam Cole's music hits. Place goes ballistic. Absolutely goes ballistic. He comes down and I think he super kicks the Jurassic Express, and the Elite give the Jurassic Express and Christian the business a little bit more. And all is happy in wrestling land and wrestling fans in general. I mean, this was so exciting to finally see the band back together again, basically. Was this a big moment for you, Charlie?
Yeah, it was cool. I mean, yeah, I mean, I still kind of, I mean, yeah, because Adam Cole's a heel, dude, so I'm trying to think, I kind of want him as a face against the Elite, but it makes no sense for him not to be in the Elite. Yeah, those are his boys. They've been tight forever, so him coming in as a heel is perfect, especially with what came after that, but yeah, it's better as a heel. I still it'd be even better with the Bucks with those titles, but you know, I'm sure they got something in the plan story-wise to keep the heat on them. But it's going to be good, dude. I mean, some of the best shit I ever watched was when they were running Bullet Club, dude. Fantastic shit, dude. It was just fantastic. It was some of the best wrestling I've seen since some of the best stuff that I was really into since ECW was that Ring of Honor New Japan time. It was interesting. It was good stuff because, like I said, whenever they had a show in Chicago, I'd roll down there solo, dude. I didn't miss an episode of Ring of Honor. I caught all the New Japan stuff that I could. It's going to be good because now, plus, they have the freedom to do whatever they want to do. They don't have to bounce it off what's Gato in New Japan. They ain't got to run it by Cornette or whoever's running Ring of Honor. I can't remember the guy's name after Cornette. Or what's the wrestler's name?
Marty Scurll.
Marino.
No. He wore a mask. He was a head booker for Ring of Honor. Not Exhibit. God dang it. I can't remember. I have to Google it. But they don't have to run it by that booker. There's another guy who wore a mask. It's in Ring of Honor. If you look it up, I'll look it up.
Yeah, while Charlie's looking that up, I for me this
Delirious. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah. But go ahead, Matt.
No, I was just going to add to that. Yeah, for me this was really cool to see. The whole arena was almost starting to do yes chants, and you could sense that people were expecting Daniel Bryan to come out. And then the lights go out, lights come on, and Adam Cole's music hits, and it wasn't a total surprise. I think if you're a big fan of AEW, you know, you've probably heard the rumors. You probably knew Adam Cole was in discussions with them and that his WWE contract had expired. But when you're expecting Daniel Bryan, you get Adam Cole instead. It's still great. Like, there was nothing bad about it. It was still equally exciting.
It was awesome.
I agree with Charlie. I think the heel turn was the perfect way to introduce him as a member of the Elite. And funny because when he came out, for whatever reason, I had forgotten that. I was expecting him to challenge Kenny Omega because that's sort of how Kenny Omega had teed it up with the speech he had given just beforehand.
Yeah.
But then we see him super kick Jungle Boy and hug the Young Bucks. They're like kissing him on the cheek. It was great. And immediately you knew, yeah, this is where he belongs. This totally makes sense. And instantly he felt like he should be at the top of the card. So a perfect way to debut Adam Cole.
Right.
Yeah, that whole kiss on the cheek kissing on the cheek's a great thing because it's like the thing they would do to piss off fans. And then when they kicked him out of Bullet Club when he was going to AEW, he was knocked out, so he lifted his head up and kissed him on the cheek goodbye. It's just everything they do is perfect. It's all interconnected, intertwined. I know you guys don't watch Being the Elite, but if you can watch Being the Elite this week, it's totally worth it. It's really good, dude. It's really good.
Nice.
It's just funny. It's 15 minutes. It's funny as fuck. There's good shit in it. It's worth the watch. I highly recommend it. I've been watching the last few weeks, but this week is good because you get the Adam Cole shit and a lot of stuff with that. And they have a whole seance to bring him back. It's just fucking funny, dude. It's just funny.
One other thing that was funny was Kenny Omega and Steve Urkel. Did I do that?
That was good.
That was so good.
Sit back.
So good,
If
so
he sticks
annoying.
with that, if he sticks with that and doesn't overuse it and overkill it, I think that is money. That is brilliant. It kind of plays into Don Callis, like unapologetic, no ownership for any underhandings.
Yeah.
And Kenny Omega, if he can use that little phrase, like when he does something really mischievous, like into the camera, it'll just be so good. Oh, I can't wait. So shout out to Steve Urkel, Jaleel White, and
Time listener.
yeah. So when we thought that was the big reveal, I mean, pretty much everybody thought Daniel Bryan was a lock. I mean, it was going all over the interwebs that Daniel would be here. Music hits, Flight of the Valkyrie hits, and remixes to what Charlie said, a Harlem Heat kind of beat. He comes out. He's wearing this top knot ponytail. He looks actually in good shape. Way better.
Oh,
shape
yeah, he does.
Than maybe they cut catering a little earlier in WWE because I thought before he looked sickly, and now he looks like he actually got out in the sun.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, he's been off for a while. You know that, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I know that.
Oh, okay.
Stop trying to sandbag me this episode, Charlie.
No, I'm not.
We know this. This is keep the kayfabe, man. No, this was an awesome way to follow up. So yeah, Mike, kind of like you were talking about, after Adam Cole's debut, he's clearly a member of the Elite. Kenny Omega goes all full heel on the crowd. And you can't end a show like that in AEW, at least. If it were WWE, that'd be a different story. That's, the status quo. But thankfully, as Kenny Omega's about to wish the crowd good night, we hear, like Mike said, Flight of the Valkyries hits, remix music. Bryan Danielson comes walking out looking like a fit vegan Brock Lesnar. He runs down to the ring and just cleans house, starts hitting people with yes kicks, the double knees. We get to see all the greatest hits from Daniel Bryan. He then teams up with the Jurassic Express, which personally, if he did align with them and, it kind of sort of became the fourth or fifth or whatever member of that stable that he ends up being, I think it's a good first step for him in AEW. I think those guys can learn a lot from Daniel Bryan. He has a really similar style to them. He's clearly going to be a babyface. I mean, I can't imagine Daniel Bryan as a heel. Even though we have seen it in the past, I just think he works much better as a face. It's very believable.
At this point, it has to stay that way, yeah.
Exactly. So I was really excited to see it. A double debut at the end of a pay-per-view from, two...
That's crazy.
Just unreal. Like, when in wrestling history has that ever happened before?
Nowhere, dude. I can't think of. Can you? Two big reveals like that? I can't think of it. You usually get one and you're so jacked, and it's like you get the
right.
really the one that was so totally surprising was Adam Cole. That was the one like, what the fuck? I was like, Adam Cole, like, oh shit, because you knew Daniel was coming, but it's like, damn, bro, that was fucking, that was intense. That was intense.
It's almost like we're watching a promotion where they give the fans what they want.
Exactly.
It's so weird.
Yeah. It truly is. And it's like, it's just cherry on the sundae.
Yeah.
That's crazy. It's just nuts that that's good. Like I say it too, it's like what ECW, hopefully it was a guy with money who's willing to spend the money, who's willing to book shit, do shit right, and they got a really good chance to do some shit. Even a guy that knows I'm a wrestling fan kind of makes fun of me for being a wrestling fan, and the gym was like, hey, what's this AEW stuff? He heard about it, and he's not like a wrestling dude. He hasn't watched wrestling since he was a kid, but he had heard about AEW, so that's pretty good, dude. When you get a guy like him.
They got coverage on Sports Illustrated, ESPN. They're getting coverage. Brian Alvarez wrote an article for Sports Illustrated.
Oh wow!
It was just published today. Yeah,
I wonder if Mike's buddy Glenn helped him.
Oh, probably. Definitely.
Yeah, you got to get that.
Thanks for listening, Glenn.
Yeah.
Member number one of the focus group for sure. No, it's
Second
funny.
row.
Yeah, it's true though that AEW is building buzz. I was telling these guys a story. I think on our way down to All Out this past weekend, about Becky, my fiance. One of her coworkers used to be really into pro wrestling growing up, and she hasn't watched it in years. Like most people, she kind of fell off in her teenage years. But she was asking questions about, well, who's wrestling nowadays that I might know? And I mentioned Chris Jericho. And, for anyone who's ever watched wrestling, you probably know who Chris Jericho is. So right away she starts asking questions. I mentioned that, it's his last match. If he loses, that's the stipulation he has to retire. And next thing I know, she's got a text thread going with, several of her friends who used to watch wrestling and still do, some of them. So right away, you get that buzz. Like you mentioned names like Chris Jericho, and all you got to do is tell people, it's legitimately good. Like back, late 90s, like that kind of feeling, that kind of buzz, that kind of anticipation, it's back. So it truly is exciting. And it's great to hear that folks like Brian Alvarez are writing articles for Sports Illustrated. Like there's truly real momentum behind this. And we saw that with a double debut of two former WWE stars, like people that are even not maybe casual viewers might know.
Yeah. Like you got to say,
Right.
Brian was obviously one of the top stars that wasn't homegrown, that they tried to keep down. And Adam Cole was arguably one of the best NXT guys ever. I mean, you could argue other names, but he was one of the best ever, dude. He's in your top three, in my opinion.
Most definitely. And Danielson did say something at the end when the camera shut off. The reason he was there was because of all the work that was put in by the people there who started AEW from day one, from All In all the way to current day. It's because they built this great foundation, and now they're just adding these big, huge pieces to the company that is just going to take it to the next level. And you guys are right. It's major momentum behind it, and it is a legit movement. And Vince better watch his back, because I think Tony Khan is going to be on the cover of some wrestling magazines real soon here, if not already.
I think has Tony Khan been Booker of the Year the last 2 years? I know last year he was. Do you know if it's the last 2 years, Matt? Do you know if he won Booker? Not that these are real awards, is it too? Not that they're real awards or anything, but
it's still momentum, yeah.
Yeah, but it's not Bruce Pritchard.
Right.
Oh God, yeah.
All right, so there's only the records to be reviewed yet. The AEW records do mean something, and they do mean something here. The current champ is Charlie Michael. He is currently the King Booker, and we will see if he remains on top. But we're going to save that till after promo of the week. So this promo of the week comes to us from Texas, from Akeem, with an A, not Hakeem. He submitted a great promo from the Iron Sheik from September 1st, 1984, when he was with WWF, and he's with Mean Gene Okerlund. So let's take a listen to hear what old Sheiky has to say.
Federation is back. Title defense for the heavyweight champion Hulk Hogan, challenger Cowboy Bob Orton. In a return bout from Madison Square Garden, Andre the Giant to meet the Iron Sheik. And this time, Fred Blassie to be the referee. Come on in, if you would, please, Iron Sheik. Before I talk about your match with the eighth wonder of the world, Andre, welcome to America. Welcome to, as we say, the Big Apple.
Well, Gene, I can say your last name very good, Mr. Gene O'Collier, but I prefer to call you just Gene. I just want to tell you, Gene, thank you very much to you. Welcome, give me, and I want to, if you don't mind, I'd like to speak a little bit for thousand Iranian people and Arabian people in the New York City. I just want to say, Salam alaikum, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Muhammad al-Rasul al-Waliyullah. Andre the Giant.
I'm very curious. Before I talk about Andre the Giant, what specifically is Iran known for?
Well, you know, Iran, they know by oil, wrestling, carpet, pistachio, anything you name it. Let me say something about that Andre the Giant. Mr. Giant, last time you was lucky, you had the American referee. But this time is my manager. Ayatollah Blassie.
No, referee.
That's right. This time they bring terrible shooter. They call him Fred Blassie. Andre the Giant, this time we have two surprises for you. First of all, that Iranian boots.
Oh, that's illegal.
That's right, that's illegal. That Iranian boots, I have surprise for you. The second surprise is Ayatollah Blasi gonna be the referee. Andre the Giant. Yeah, Fred Blassie.
Nassau County Coliseum this Friday night, fans. You wouldn't want to miss it, Andre the Giant and the Iron Sheik.
We've gotten some crazy ones over the last couple weeks, boys, but what can you say about Iron Sheik?
Then, now, forever. Crazy.
Yeah, well said, Steve. Not sure I can add too much to that. I mean, like you said, the guy's a legend, then now forever.
Sheiky baby.
Yeah.
Smokes a lot of herb, too.
Yes.
Likes to get high and go on Twitter.
Well, him and Hacksaw got busted smoking weed.
Oh yeah, when they were back when heels and faces shouldn't be seen together, and they got arrested together.
Yep.
They were rolling down the road. They got a lot of stories. All right, so the moment you've all been waiting for, the records, and who will be King Booker. So I did the worst. I did.
Oh wow! I thought we were tied.
6 wins, 3 losses. I was at the bottom. Followed by the next 2 people. Charlie and Steve were tied at 7 and 2.
Oh,
and
damn.
King Booker, new champion Matt Michelson.
Oh man.
How do you feel, Matt?
What was his record?
8-1.
8-1.
8-1.
He only dropped 1.
Yeah, the only one I think I got incorrect was the Casino Battle Royale because I had picked Ty Conti to win that. Yeah, and I had a hunch Ruby Soho was going to be the Joker, and I think we talked about that last week. But even then, I was like, I don't know that they'd push her that quickly. But in hindsight, it's kind of like I said earlier, on the night, it made sense. So I'm not disappointed at all. We had a great weekend of wrestling. I mean, it was one of the best wrestling pay-per-views of all the time. So quite frankly, whatever. But I am proud to be King Booker on top of the podcast for at least the next foreseeable future. And all I want to say is, first time watching wrestling, huh, Charlie?
Ha! Well, I took 2 chances. I was only 1 behind you. You might want to stay up to date, buddy. I took 2 dark horses and still was on your tail.
You were. I'll give you that.
Well, I think, Matt, what you should really be offering Charlie as a little piece of advice is to stay humble, stay hungry, and stay hard.
Triple H.
Woo.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and like us on Spotify, iTunes, and Google Podcasts. Peace.
Woo!
Destination.